digital. Let's see. You're live. You might be live. You hope you're live. Okay. My jacket doesn't want to be here. Typically, one does not button a jacket while sitting, but for the video, maybe it'll work better. Okay. No. Stuff is not supposed to be. I know that a lot of women don't watch this channel, but this video is slightly more aimed at them. So perhaps if you gentlemen in the internet world see this and want to, share with them if you think some of it or any of it was relevant, I'll like propeller my tie to death to try and get it to look more correct on camera. The pain in the butt. The original title was going to be, yes, Wedding Bell Blues. I can't do this in the teleprompter. Okay, sorry about that. Bit of a faux pas. And a waste of 20 seconds. And my hair looked better yesterday too, but I couldn't record this video for a number of reasons. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, before I was born, there was a band called Fifth Dimension that had a popular song called Wedding Bell Blues. And I like that song, so I was going to use that as the title. But, of course, the issue with that is that the title is she's waiting for, a proposal that she doubts might ever come. And more importantly, more people might look up that song and then be upset to see my video for some reason, or more likely, nobody's going to look for a video on etiquette and all that using the keyword Wedding Bell Blues, which of course implies sadness and hardship and all that. I wasn't sure if I should wear a yellow vest to really make this pop, right? It might be a little more bright than. I think I've worn this jacket before, I don't recall. Anyway, I'm not exactly doing a comprehensive video about all of the traditional rules and things regarding all weddings ever. I know this is a menswear style, channel too. And I'm not going to go overboard on wardrobe. I did recently do a video about, I called it bot fashion, about some likely not real person who always finds me in certain comment sections and thinks that I care what they allegedly wear all day, every day, and thinks that, their lazy black hoodie belongs at a wedding because that's what they want to wear, or, whatever, or somebody's funeral, or whatever. Well, who cares? So if you want to see more on that, then that video is there. I'm not going to restate all of that or probably any of that. So just to let you know. Then, of course, there's the jokes that come in the internet. Like, I was listening to a certain Tom Petty song, You Got Lucky, and one poster commented, "This is my wedding song," to be a joke, right? I suppose you could use Under My Thumb by the Rolling Stones too. And then, of course, I did that bit in one of the screenwriting videos, I think, about the life insurance video. Well, there was an updated one I keep meaning to record, the John, but we have life insurance, right? And then at the end, this one, it said, call for a quote. In minutes, you can be dead and your wife can be rich. So, okay, getting past that. There was some other videos that I had watched about style and capsule wardrobes and that kind of thing. Most of that is not relevant so much anymore. Obviously, the wedding party, usually you're having a theme, or at least a thematic kind of color scheme or whatever. For men attending the wedding, you're not really trying to match that because you're not a groomsman. So there's not, excuse me, any particular reason to really do that. And I had talked about, I believe in my formal or semi-formal kilt videos about, excuse me, when and if it might be appropriate to wear kilts, or if they might think you're trying to steal the show if you wear the kilt, that kind of thing. Things you will have to navigate. Overall, I think, I mean, for a typical wedding, what I'm wearing would not be too, maybe tone down the shirt or something, but it's not too flamboyant if it's a spring wedding-ish. You'll get a lot of those couples now, I'll get to it, that tell everybody to come more casual. They don't want people wearing heavy business suits, real, navy blue and dark gray and charcoal and that kind of thing. But a sport jacket, being not a suit, I still think looks, better overall than a denim jacket or no jacket. Well, it depends on the weather too. Of course, if it's warm or you're in, Hawaii, maybe you skip the jacket. I don't necessarily recommend. You could have the pocket square. I don't usually go with it. I usually skip jewelry. I can't really stand wearing much jewelry anymore. Obviously with a bow tie, you're not having a tie bar or a tie tack, and you're having exposed buttons. So again, where a waistcoat might be an option, but you're not wearing a tuxedo either, so you don't really need to obsess about that. If this was a white button, it would stand out a lot more. This isn't even a true dress shirt, but it's dress shirt-ish. It has collar stiffeners, but not a button down. You could wear a button down collar though if you're, again, there as a casual attendee. Yeah, most jewelry I find just a nuisance, and I can never seem to find the tie clip that I like very much, that aren't too showy again. Where they go. Oh, I was wondering where the video people bought theirs, to find the nice ones to wear that are simple but cheap. I had one that one of my cousins left in the house one year, but it broke already. And I liked that one, and I don't know where to find where they got that one. But if it was that cheap, they probably just got it at Walmart or something. Probably need to go to a department store or wherever. If you're really desperate, you can use a safety pin to kind of anchor the thing in place, especially if you're wearing it under a vest or, something anyway. There are ways to do a safety pin where you're not showing, I'll use a paper clip instead, but where you're showing as little of the thing as possible. And then having the ends, hidden under the tie, not necessarily under the shirt, but over the placket, so it's not rubbing against your skin. You could figure something out to do that where it would be showing just the slightest bit of metal through the main part of a necktie. And then you don't have to worry about your tie doing, what's that wiggly guy outside the used car lot or whatever, especially if it's windy and you are outdoors. If you're at the reception, you don't necessarily need your tie anchored down because you don't want your shirt doing goofy things if you're dancing and all that. Depends on how crazy of a dancer you are. So, you might undo your tie and let it be a bit more free at that point. I don't quite have enough opinions about men's jewelry to really do a separate video. So, Easter egg. Let's see. So Yeah, jeans, hoodies, athleisure. Don't wear these to weddings, even if they say it's a casual wedding. Please. There are no lace shoes that will be appropriate, and then shoes without laces that are less appropriate. So, like a pair of loafers or a decent pair of slip-on sneakers that aren't canvas, right? Typically. I would say if you're worried about footwear, going with something like a boat shoe will almost always be better than any sneaker option. What used to be called tennis shoes, but now there's so many different kinds of sneakers that aren't tennis shoes. But Crocs and flip flops and tank tops, that's reserved for the stylistically impaired. You should know better than that, but I will mention it. Again, when they say casual weddings, I think some people get the idea that t-shirts are okay, and most people will sub in a polo shirt for a t-shirt, which is, I guess, kind of the standard acceptable now, depending on the polo shirt. It should be a decent quality polo shirt. It can have a design. In fact, it may or may not be better than it has a design than if it's a solid, depending on the design. Yeah, obviously modern weddings have different conventions, and there's not a one-size-fits-all approach anymore. But it's still, like I said, I think it's still better to be overdressed than underdressed. I've mentioned this in videos previously elsewhere, like the bot one. And even if the couple says come casual, I do have the relatives who wear the business suit to the come casual wedding, and it just looks too stuffy. I get it. That's not the correct attire either, but it's kind of somber compared to other more carefree options and less formal suits, because you can get a linen suit or something else. It doesn't have to be white like a 30s villain from a film or whatever. But in the summer, again, you're trying to keep cool. Something maybe in a beige as opposed to a brown, that kind of thing. Okay, so now I'm changing. Oh, I forgot to do this at the start. My fault. This video is just, well, like I said, I wanted to record yesterday, and so I'm a little off my game. I was supposed to hold up part 1 at the beginning to let people know that there was 2 parts. So we're moving from the men's fashion part to the total women's etiquette part. But it's a twist, okay? Because as the guest, we are holding up our duty to, again, show it presentable and to, bring a halfway decent present or whatever and all that kind of thing. Yes, you are allowed to, try and meet people there. If there is no people there to meet, sometimes I wonder why they didn't just do the courthouse. We'll get into that. Hang on. Okay, so the part the bride won't hear or won't want to hear, maybe. So if you're in her good graces and have her ear, maybe you can nudge a bit. As a hostess, part of your responsibility is to provide ample setting for guests to have a good time, but also for potential romantic relationships to blossom. Not necessarily your job to play matchmaker, but if you only have 30 guy friends and 2 female friends, like, don't invite all of your guy friends to your wedding. Probably. Depends on if they're all your husband's fraternity buddies, I guess, and they're actually really more his friends. I don't know. So nobody wants to hear this now, and hence the non-traditional and free-form marriage ceremonies that have, largely started back in the 60s or whatever. So the weddings that I have attended, well, there was the weddings and then there was the receptions, right? So I guess I'm more concerned with the reception at this point than the actual ceremony. That's, it's kind of a separate, but again, we're talking about fashion and style here more than we're talking about religion and families and all that kind of thing. Okay. So Many times I have attended receptions that, should have just been courthouse proceedings and maybe a barbecue at somebody's house. Instead of renting out a big place and trying to feed all the people that you didn't really want to see anyway. Aunt Bertha's flying in from Minnesota, but I wish she wasn't. Well, there was a way to nip that in the bud, and it was called not sending out a polite invitation. It was letting her see the photos on Facebook 3 months from now. Obviously, one need not become a bridezilla trying to micromanage every single detail, which just makes everyone miserable, including mostly themselves. But the wedding party, the actual participants, the best man and the bridesmaid and all that, also should look like, oh, sorry. Read that backwards. Well, yes, okay. Would help if my notes were correctly in order. Okay, skip that. The wedding, the after party, the reception should not just look like the whole place is table 8 from the Adam Sandler movie, which, of course, Wedding Singer, of course, was not Wedding Crashers, which was a subterfuge scenario for personal gain as opposed to, really caring so much about the happy couple. So yeah, we'll get to that again in a minute. Everything comes up again in a minute. Sorry, what I was saying about the wedding party was not meant to be the stuff about the wedding actual party. Again, the actual wedding party, I had talked previously about, in another video about if it was kilts. And so if the groomsmen are all doing kilts and stuff, there's always these questions about should you wear the same tartan or should you wear different tartans and da-da-da. So I talked about all that in kilt videos, so I'm not going to go into that here. Sorry. Okay. But anyway, yeah, so if you're doing not even traditional snail mail invitationals, if you just send out a mass email to your thousands of Facebook friends, like it's some high school kegger party, just hoping whoever shows up will show up, then maybe expect that mostly the worst fake friends might more show up than your good friends even sometimes, because they're just expecting free booze and food and music, and maybe they won't care too much if there's not quite enough dance partners or whatever for again, it doesn't have to be 1-to-1 ratio exactly, but this is not a completely unrealistic question for a prospective attendee to ask. That, again, there will be a pretty good ratio, especially if you're a younger couple and you're, fresh out of college or whatever. The whole point of the bridesmaids and groomsmen, this is the wedding party part, yes, is to introduce her friends to his friends and show off the nature of the concept of coupling to the attendees. So, the love is in the air theme, this doesn't mean they all need to fall in love with each other, or that, deflowering maidens like Wedding Crashers should be automatically on the docket. But it is also a facet of the dating market to some extent to go to weddings. That's kind of, yeah, weddings and who met who as a bit of spicy gossip is part of the tradition. Sorry if you're, finding that objectionable somehow, but that's just not normal. That's you being weird. Okay, many brides have their older sister as the matron, and she's already married, and oftentimes the best man is just the immature jerk, the guy's known the longest. And this bloke thinks that guy is going to be, or he subs in some guy instead of another guy that would have been a better choice. We've all been there, I guess. So this sets up all sorts of bad precedents and lousy toasts and things. But, yeah, people make mistakes. What are you going to do? The bridesmaid is not automatically going to be, or the matron of honor, I should say, is not going to automatically be the most available gal. And when she catches the bouquet, it might be an issue more with the other gals than the men in the queue or whatever. So I had gotten a similar invite from a friend, and don't know. It was a mass kind of email thing, and so I don't know who's attending this at all. But I was scrolling through and seeing people and getting curious if they might come, and trying to get out ahead of the bride who may not know or care. And yeah, a lot of people these days don't even read those messages to begin with. So, I thought I would ask if a certain person was likely to attend that I might want to see or talk to or dance with or associate with. And the bride at first just says pardon, as if they never heard of the person, I guess. And so I had to specify that I was talking about your event invite, is, this certain person included, and then I hope she comes, but that's up to her. I haven't asked any of my friends if they intend to come. So again, yeah, if you're treating your own ceremony like a keg party, whatever. But then later, like first thing in the morning, wakes up and second guesses this reply and says, I don't know if she intends to visit. I haven't asked her. We established that. Okay. But if you were coming mostly to see her, I would rather you skip the event. I could really use friends who want to see me for me. So that was a nice crasher accusation I get when a proper sort of invite was sent. So yes, I already replied that I was coming. I'm not crashing your function just to meet people. Okay. And I think it's clear that I know you better than them. Yes. So I replied, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because, some of it doesn't matter. I just met her recently and then saw her on Facebook, and, your friends basically, that hadn't replied to my message. So I thought this was one more person to, maybe chat with and such. Yes, it's your day. Now we want to make sure that that's clear. That I understand this, but I have found that one doesn't get to hang out with the bride very much at their weddings, especially even when they invite you, but then have family stuff and all that. And as a single guest, which I don't think I've ever taken a date to a wedding, sometimes because they don't allow plus ones. Like in this case, it's a little bit gray. They've sent out an email to 3,000 people, but they don't want you to bring someone not invited. Maybe, I don't know. I should follow up with her and find out. But since this person has already been issued an invite, then if I brought them as a plus one, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, except that they haven't read their email, so I can't do that, which is why I'm trying to potentially do that, which I guess I could clarify better if I thought it would do any good and not just aggravate her more when she's obviously not interested in doing any of that stuff, because she feels like she's already sent out the invitations and therefore she has other plans to make, and this whoever shows up shows up. Okay, that's not how I would do it, but whatever. So then I went on to say, yeah, when single guests end up scrambling for dance partners and such, if all the other guests are couples, because again, that can happen. And there was one wedding I went to where they kind of did that. They kind of hamstringed us. And my one friend brought somebody and they were mad that he did. But then I was dancing with my friend's married wife like the whole time. So that was kind of like, but he didn't want to dance. So it was fine with him, but that might not usually be the case. And there was a good jazz band and we were all having a great time dancing too. So I had been a better time if I had brought the gal I was sort of dating that they actually knew. Maybe, but she wasn't into it, or she was out of state. I don't remember. Anyway, my cousin's wedding a few years ago, I got to dance with Aunt Donna for quite some time. Well, yeah, quite a while spent doing that, which, is fine because Aunt Donna and I get along and we hadn't seen each other in a while, and we were, chatting and dancing, not, being romantic. But my cousin's wedding was mostly their friends from their younger friend group and all that. So any single girls were college age girls or whatever. Let's see, and then this wedding I went to when I was in high school, I was at the table with just her other stray guy friend for 2 hours until I got to dollar dance with her for 3 whole minutes. Yes, my cousin's wedding, of course, I didn't know the bride. I didn't go into that. It was a different cousin. This was a guy cousin, so a little bit different because, again, it wasn't his friends or his, all of his relatives were my relatives already. So, like, not really anything to choose from there. Right. Anyway, then I had another memory that I don't know if I should have even mentioned it, but this gal I knew in college, she belonged to a particular religion where you can only attend the reception. They don't let you in the actual wedding. But then after, like, it was not a typical reception. It was just like a family, his family and her family, and they were having like lemonade and bologna sandwiches and no music playing at all. So there is no dancing. And they've rented out this little hall, but it's mostly just her little cousins who are all in, still in grade school or something, while she's busy not talking to me the whole time, going back and forth between his and her family. So I spent most of the time in the parking lot with her 2 high school goth friends who, were just wearing their black clothes and smoking cigs the whole time. And at least I could kind of hide in the shade a bit and then walk home when the day got too hot. I think that was a June wedding, and it was already 95 degrees or something. This should be considered one of the longest days ever in my life, and I don't know why they didn't just have a barbecue at house and invite nobody else extra. Yes. After note that I remembered also, I didn't mention Steve's wedding drama. I shouldn't name names, but oh well, I think I already mentioned a name earlier. Not that it matters now, 30 years later or whatever. Steve's wedding drama where the old friends got stuck out at table 8 and her third cousins got more of the better seats than we did. That was kind of an insult. Her family definitely took over that whole thing and he let her. So again, men, before you show women this video, take the reins if you are getting married and don't let your family get treated like random people that you didn't even want there in the first place. This was the most infamous wedding that I did not attend. I can't really go into all of it for future copyright reasons for some of my screenplay stuff. But a friend attended this other gal's debacle. And this was a gal I had tried to date, and he kind of said, oh, well, that ship kind of sailed because she ran into this guy she knew from way back when or whatever, and they realized that, they were meant to be, and turned around and had apparently the worst wedding in history, which I did not attend. Where they went out of their way to make everything non-traditional, and then all like the family members that showed up trying to fit in and give the best wishes and stuff just felt alienated, and other things ensued that had to do with the meal plan and things that didn't really work. It kind of gave everybody not indigestion, but the creeps, I guess. They were scared to eat the cake and some other stuff. Yeah. Don't do that, I guess. I had another friend whose wedding had plenty of kind of, for lack of a better word, shit show elements. But at least at that one, I also knew plenty of people who, I had friends there to hang out with instead of just the tacky women that were presented to me in advance as being possible dating material that turned out to be much less desirable than that. Whereas the first friend with or the friend who attended the horrible wedding, his wedding, he was cognizant enough to not invite any train wreck personnel, and in fact didn't invite Steve because reasons at that point. It was like, we know he's our good friend, but we also know he's not going to be entertaining in any way, I guess, was kind of the rationale there. The best overall wedding out of those 3 or 4 was definitely his wedding too, because even though the things didn't work out with me and the gal, or the other gal that turned out to be much more attractive, that they should have mentioned first, but I had met the other gal before and we had kind of had a nice chat or whatever, so I thought that was going to be a natural pairing, not necessarily a romantic for the rest of our lives pairing, but like a wedding kind of pairing, even though I wasn't a groomsman at that particular one, blah blah blah. Another thing to not do, this has been done to me, is when a guest shows up and you tell them on the spot that they're going to be the videographer or the photographer or some other official. No, I want to dance and party and boogie and all that too. I didn't necessarily know I was getting settled with a camera with a bunch of people who are treating me like a weirdo for then trying to engage them because they don't understand I'm also a guest. They think I'm a hired hand. That was awkward. Don't put a guest in that position for at least not the entire thing, please. And don't hand them a camera they've never used before on the spot and expect them to be getting great quality footage with no tripod and other stuff. Anyway, so the other best wedding overall where I didn't know anybody, it was one of those ones in high school. It was my mom's casual work friend, and I got to dance with some random fun gal, but we were too young to like do much more than that. It was just she was there to be fed and entertained, and so was I. and that was great, but again, it was one of those not completely open invites. We were randoms at the thing, but I was +1 with my mom and she was +1 with her mom, and that gave us somebody to occupy our time, even though the bride didn't actually plan that. At least it worked out in our favor that there was enough extra people for us to not just be stuck at a table sitting and watching other people, dance or whatever. So this went on a bit long. I doubt anybody will have made it this far, even though that was kind of the nugget of the thing. Whatever. Well, I was reading slow and adding in extra junk, but it happened. So as always, if you have any questions, you can feel free to put them in the comments, and maybe I can clarify something that you've never been to a wedding before and you're really wondering how it's done, or yada, yada, yada. Do you need dance lessons? Probably not. You probably don't need dance lessons. Most of the dancing that you're going to be doing, unless it's like you'll have electric slide kind of stuff, you'll have Macarena kind of stuff, or you'll have very stiff, slow dancing. If you're not already a dancer, don't sweat it too much. You have time to improve. The one wedding I went to where, everybody had been taking swing dancing lessons except me. So I was kind of trying not to get knocked over by the whirling dervish. Not trend, phenomenon. Yeah. That kind of thing can happen, but if the girl's into you, then it won't matter. You'll just be lost in each other's eyes and dreaming of the future. And listening to your friend's girlfriend at the next table talk about what their wedding is going to be like and how much better it's going to be than this one. Try to keep that to a minimum. And if you're going to give a toast, do be short. Don't Don't try to be the best orator at the show. Leave that to, the bride's friend or whatever. Okay, I'll shut up now.